Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio, and today, this is some big news. Justin Roiland, one of the co-creators of Rick and Morty, has been fired. This article here from The Hollywood Reporter. Adult Swim cuts ties with Justin Roiland following domestic abuse charges. Rick and Morty is set to continue, with Roiland's voice roles to be recast, sources say. Adult Swim has cut ties with Justin Roiland in the wake of the news that the Rick and Morty co-creator was charged with felony domestic abuse in Orange County. Quote, Adult Swim has ended its association with Justin Roiland. Adult Swim / Cartoon Network / Boomerang Senior VP Communications Marie Moore said in a statement Tuesday. Adult Swim distributes Rick and Morty, the hit adult animation comedy that Roiland co-created and executive produced, and for which he voiced both the titular Rick and Morty. As the Hollywood Reporter reported on January 17th, Adult Swim isn't even halfway through a massive 70-episode order for the show, one of the brand's most popular titles, commissioned by the channel in 2018. Sources say Rick and Morty is set to continue, with Roiland's voice roles to be recast. Though Roiland will always be credited as co-creator, fellow co-creator Dan Harmon will now be the lone showrunner. The show is locked in through season 10. Roiland still has several projects ongoing with Hulu, including one as the co-creator of the streamer Solar Opposites, on which he voices a main character. The show was renewed for a 5th season in October. On the platform's Koala Man, which premiered January 9th, Roiland does voice work and also is an executive producer. Roiland also still has an overall deal with 20th Century Animation, which produces Solar Opposites and Koala Man. The Hollywood Reporter has reached out to Hulu and 20th Century Animation for comment. On January 12th, NBC News was the first to break the news that Roiland was charged with 1 count of domestic battery with corporal injury and 1 count of false imprisonment by menace, violence, fraud, or deceit in Orange County based on an alleged 2020 incident with an unnamed Jane Doe that Roiland was dating. Roiland has pled not guilty and in 2020 was released on a $50,000 bond. Several pretrial hearings have already occurred, and Roiland is expected to return to court April 27th. In a statement earlier this month, Roiland's attorney T. Edward Wellborn said the media coverage of this case has been quote-unquote inaccurate. Wellborn added, quote, to be clear, not only is Justin innocent, but we also have every expectation that this matter is on course to be dismissed once the district attorney's office has completed its methodical review of the evidence. Okay, so let's actually break this down because some more stuff has come out since this article was published on January 24th at 2:13 p.m. One of the things right here is sources say Rick and Morty is set to continue with Roiland's voice roles to be recast. Well, if we jump over here to this article from Screen Rant, which was published after the Hollywood Reporter article, is that Rick and Morty to be recast after Adult Swim fires Justin Roiland, and here is the actual tweet from the official Rick and Morty Twitter account right here. Adult Swim has ended its association with Justin Roiland. Rick and Morty will continue. The talented and dedicated crew are hard at work on season 7. But here's something very interesting with regards to Rick and Morty, in that how many Rick and Morty characters will have to be recast. With Roiland being cut from the show, Rick and Morty has a lot of characters it will need to recast should Adult Swim move forward with the reported plans to replace the series' co-creator. In addition to the titular mad scientist and his grandson, Roiland is the voice behind over 30 characters in the series, including multiple variants of Rick and fans' favorite supporting characters, Mr. Meeseeks and Mr. Poopy Butthole, among others. Given the news is still fresh, only time will tell how Rick and Morty will forge ahead without Roiland in the voice booth. So now what was it? The guy voiced what? Yeah, over 30 characters. So now you've got to hire like 4 or 5 different voiceover artists to just replace the one guy, which I'll say this, Justin Roiland was really smart in that regard to voice that many characters, because if you voice that many characters on a show, it's kind of difficult to replace you. Right. The other point that I want to touch on is the Hollywood Reporter has reached out to Hulu and 20th Century Animation for comment regarding, Solar Opposites and his overall deal. Well, I would like to point out that Solar Opposites was renewed for a 4th season at Hulu back on June 22nd, 2021. Variety Variety broke that story. Solar Opposites has been renewed for season 4 on Hulu. The news comes before season 3 of the series has aired, with that season set to launch in 2022. The show had received a 2-season order when it was first picked up at Hulu. Season 2 of the series was released in its entirety on March 26th. This would be March 26, 2021. Blah, 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 blah. But still. And here's the point that I want to make as to why are Hulu and 20th Century Animation still remaining silent on this. In my opinion, it's because the 4th season of Solar Opposites is either completely done or is close to being completely done. So are Disney and Hulu really going to spend the money to go back and completely re-record the entire 4th season if you have to remove Justin Roiland? We already know that he voices over 30 characters on Rick and Morty, so who knows how many characters he's voicing on Solar Opposites, but still, do they really want to waste the money and go back and completely re-record the 4th season, potentially have to redo all of the animation to account for all of the new voiceover? Or would it be better off to just sit back and just wait for all of this news to blow over and then release season 4 of Solar Opposites? And we do know from this Hollywood Reporter article that the show was renewed for a 5th season, but that could ultimately be canceled. So the fact of the matter is, if season 4 of Solar Opposites is already mostly done, sorry, lost my train of thought. If season 4 of Solar Opposites is mostly done or is already done, yeah, why are they going to go back and waste the money? And yeah, why not just wait for all of this to potentially potentially blow over? And the final point that I really want to talk about is I've been noticing I've seen a lot of Fandom Menace channels cover this, and they're painting it as as like the worst thing ever. Justin Roiland is getting canceled. Blah 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 blah. Where what they're not saying in those videos, and they're conveniently leaving this out. This article here from Newsweek, I'm just going to read to you the one sentence, because, Roiland is charged with domestic battery with corporal injury and false imprisonment by menace, violence, fraud, and or deceit. As a result, he is facing up to 7 years in prison, right? And this is the point that I really want to hammer home. Why is Adult Swim cutting ties with Justin Roiland right now and not until after the trial? It's because Justin Roiland is facing potential prison time given what he's charged with. This isn't something as simple as he's going to be allowed to serve it on probation and he's going to have to do X amount of hours of community service. Why would think of this from a business perspective? I know I've probably already pissed some people off for even suggesting this. Heaven fucking forbid. But think about this from the network's perspective of Adult Swim, right? Justin Roiland, co-creator of Rick and Morty, who also voices a butt-fuck ton of characters on the show, voices like 30 characters. Some voiceover artists voice a lot more, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, Justin Roiland is facing up to 7 years in prison, and he is probably not going to avoid jail time if convicted. So why not make the moves now to get away from Justin Roiland to diminish him for season 7? That way the show can go on, because heaven forbid he does get convicted, and now Adult Swim's looking at season 7 going, oh shit, what do we do now? We're not even halfway through the season, and now we have to recast one of the main voice actors. Right, so just think about it from the network's perspective, and I am going to go as far as to say this: if this case gets dismissed, what I can foresee happening is you're going to see articles that are going to come out, and Justin Roiland is coming back on for Rick and Morty season 8 or season 9, whenever that is. That is if the case gets dismissed. Because what this reminds me of is the fact that Dan Harmon, one of the co-creators of Rick and Morty, was fired from Community at one point, right? Dan Harmon was fired after season 3 with this article from Screen Rant that was titled, why show creator Dan Harmon was fired after season 3, published in June of 2020. Community was renewed by NBC in May of 2012, but a week after the news broke, Harmon was informed that his position as the showrunner was terminated. It was bad enough that he was fired, but to make matters worse, he learned of the decision through a text message. Sony Pictures Television and the network cited Harmon's erratic behavior as the reason for the firing. There were rampant rumors that he would arrive on set late, fell asleep on the job, and cause trouble with his offbeat leadership. He also switched back and forth from being a perfectionist to a procrastinator. David, and I am gonna butcher the hell out of this name, and I apologize. David Garaccio and Moses Port replaced Harmon for season 4, which also saw the departure of multiple executive producers and writers. But guess what? Dan Harmon was ultimately brought back to Community for seasons 5 and 6. So why Dan Harmon was rehired for Community season 5? Garaccio and Port failed to live up to the standard that Harmon created with Community, and the network knew it. The show wasn't the same as it once was. After being fired, Harmon took his live comedy show Harmontown on the road. He still had a very loyal group of followers who were vocal that if Community continued, Harmon needed to return. It was Joel McHale, however, that pushed Sony and NBC to allow Harmon to return. He and other cast members realized that Community served as a passion project for Harmon, and it was only right that he was at the helm. They listened, and Harmon took back the reins until the series ended with season 6 in 2015. So again, if this case does ultimately get dismissed, as Justin Roiland's attorney is putting it, very cautiously optimistic, you're going to probably see articles of Justin Roiland to return to Rick and Morty in season 8 or season 9, whenever that is. And honestly, that would honestly remind me of what happened to Hulk Hogan. I know that this is some ancient history, so I'll give you the Cliff Notes version, right? I believe it was in either 2014 or 2015. I don't remember which. I think it was 2015, right? Gawker published a sex tape with Hulk Hogan where he was basically dropping the N-word, like, what was it, like 20? I think it was like he dropped the N-word like so many times within just like a 10 to 15 minute period. Anyway, WWE basically cut ties with them, unpersoned Hulk Hogan completely, right? Hulk Hogan sues Gawker and won a $140 million verdict. Now later he would settle it for $31 million. And this article here from Forbes, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read the important part right here. Hogan's invasion of privacy suit asked for $100 million. At trial, Hogan received a $115 million verdict against Gawker, $55 million in economic damages, and $60 million for emotional distress. Then the jury added $25.1 million in punitive damages for a total of $140.1 million. Now, did this keep Hulk Hogan out of the WWE forever? No, because Hulk Hogan came back in 2018. He first came back to during the very first Crown Jewel, and more recently he was just at the 30th anniversary of Raw, I believe, titled Raw's 30. He and Jimmy Hart had both walked out, but But still, I know I've rambled for a long time. Before and I'll end off the video with this. Before you go and decry this before you go off and decry Justin Roiland as yet another victim of cancel culture, I please implore you to actually think about that before you say it. Right? Because, again, I would argue if Justin Roiland was not facing up to 7 years in prison and the type of charges that he's facing, there is probably no way around the prison time. It's not like he's going to be allowed to serve it on probation. Yeah, Adult Swim is gonna cut ties with them, even though it is premature. But still, they have to think about it. Rick and Morty is their cash cow. It is basically their only hit show at this point. And now, oh my God, if we put all of our eggs in the Justin Roiland basket, and God forbid he does get convicted, oh shit, what do we do now? Do we either bite the bullet today and cut ties with them and just hire, 4 or 5 new voice actors to replace them, or do we wait, 4, 5, 6 months from now, and if he's convicted, we're going to have to do it anyway, and then we're going to have to potentially go back and re-record all of the episodes that Justin Roiland was in, just to not cause a jarring effect with the audience. That it's like, okay, Justin Roiland, let's say he voices the first 4 or 5 episodes of season 7, just for sake of argument. Okay, now he gets convicted, but Adult Swim did not bite the bullet. They hire the new voice actors, and they take over from season 7, episode 6 onwards, right? You can always tell when a new voice actor takes over a role. I argue that happened with me after I watch Family Guy now. After Mike Henry stepped down from voicing Cleveland Brown, you can tell that that's not the voice of Cleveland Brown. It's somebody who's doing an impression of the voice of Cleveland Brown. So still, but still, honestly, think about it from Adult Swim's perspective first. And if it does get and if the case does get dismissed again, what I think we're going to start to see is articles saying, okay, Justin Roiland is coming back for Rick and Morty during season 8, season 9, whatever. And guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this right here, because I know I've rambled and I've gone way longer than I probably should on this, but there was a lot that I just had to get out there. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Am I right? Is my line of thinking, logical? What do you guys think is going on? Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and truly end this right here. If you stuck around this long, thanks so much for doing so. And if you've been following me long enough, I'm terrible at ending these videos, so I will just see you guys next time.